Welcome back to Mind of a Monster. I'm your host, Adam.
And I'm Sarah. Today, we're delving into a case that is deeply disturbing on multiple levels, the story of Jeffrey Dahmer. Unlike killers who roamed across the country, Dahmer's reign of terror was eerily quiet, confined to his own private spaces.
Exactly. The horror wasn't just in the murders themselves, but in how they happened, right under the noses of neighbors and, tragically, the police. To understand Dahmer, we have to start with his childhood, which was marked by loneliness and a deeply troubled family life. Even as a young boy, he developed a fascination with dead animals, dissecting them to see how they ticked. This was the first glimpse into a mind that saw living beings as objects to be taken apart.
That fascination was coupled with a profound sense of social isolation. His parents' marriage was falling apart and he was left to his own devices. In high school, he was the class weirdo, drinking heavily to cope with his social anxiety and his growing, terrifying fantasies. He was struggling with his homosexuality, which he equated with his violent urges, creating a twisted internal conflict that would eventually explode.
And that explosion happened in 1978, just a few weeks after his high school graduation. He picked up a young hitchhiker named Stephen Hicks, took him back to his parents' empty house, and when Hicks tried to leave, Dahmer bludgeoned him to death. The key here is his motivation. He later said he wanted someone to stay with him, to be completely under his control. The murder wasn't just an act of violence, it was a desperate, horrific attempt to prevent abandonment.
After that first murder, there was a 9-year gap before he killed again. He joined the army but was discharged for alcoholism. He then went to live with his grandmother, and for a while, it seems like he might be able to control his urges, but the fantasies were always there, churning beneath the surface. His grandmother, who was largely unaware of the true extent of his problems, provided him with a stable environment, but it was also a place where he could hide his escalating darkness.
Eventually, his grandmother asked him to leave due to his heavy drinking and the foul smells coming from the basement. This is when he moved into the Oxford apartments in Milwaukee, and the floodgates opened. Unchecked and alone, he began killing with terrifying frequency. He would lure young men, mostly minorities, from gay bars or bus stops back to his apartment, drug them, and murder them. His gruesome experiments and attempts to create a compliant, zombie-like partner were escalating.
And that brings us to the most infuriating and tragic part of the story, the systemic failures that allowed him to continue. In May 1991, 2 women saw a naked, bleeding, and incoherent boy stumble out of Dahmer's apartment building. They called the police. That boy was 14-year-old Konarak Sinthasamphon. When the officers arrived, Dahmer calmly claimed the boy was his 19-year-old lover and they'd had a fight. The police believed him. They escorted the boy back into Dahmer's apartment and even joked about needing to be deloused. Konarak was murdered that night.
It's an almost unbelievable dereliction of duty. The officers dismissed the concerns of the 2 women on the scene, who were black, and took the word of a calm white man. It's impossible not to see the role that race and homophobia played in that moment. They saw it as a domestic dispute between 2 gay men and didn't investigate further. A simple background check would have shown Dahmer was a convicted child molester. That boy's life could have and should have been saved.
Just 2 months later, his killing spree finally came to an end, not because of diligent police work, but because a victim escaped. On July 22, 1991, Tracy Edwards was lured into Dahmer's apartment. He felt something was wrong, and after a struggle, he managed to punch Dahmer and flee, flagging down a police car. He led the officers back to the apartment, and this time they entered. The rest is the stuff of nightmares.
The officers found Polaroid pictures of dismembered bodies, a head in the refrigerator, skulls, and other human remains. The apartment was a slaughterhouse. Dahmer's confession was chillingly calm and detailed. The trial became a national spectacle, and the central question was his sanity. The defense argued he was insane, driven by a compulsion he couldn't control, but the prosecution pointed out he knew his actions were wrong. He tried to hide the evidence. He spaced out his killings to avoid suspicion. He was, in legal terms, sane.
The jury agreed, finding him sane on 15 counts of murder. He was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms, but his life in prison was short. In 1994, he was beaten to death by a fellow inmate. For many of the victims' families, it was the final, brutal end to a story that should have ended so much sooner.
The legacy of the Dahmer case is complicated. It's not just a story about a depraved individual, it's a story about how society failed its most vulnerable. The victims were predominantly men of color, many of whom were gay. Their marginalization made them easy targets, and it also, tragically, made their disappearances less of a priority for law enforcement. The Dahmer case forced a painful reckoning with how police interact with minority and LGBTQ+ communities. That brings us to the end of another case. We know these stories are not easy to hear, and we want to thank you for sticking with us through this difficult but important discussion. Your support is what allows us to continue exploring these complex cases. We'll be back soon to delve into another mind of a monster, so please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it.
Before we go, we must end with our most important message. While the psychology of these individuals is fascinating, it is crucial to remember that we are discussing real-life murderers, not fictional characters. There is no glory or honor in what they did. Our purpose is to learn from the darkness and to shine a light on the systemic failures that can allow such evil to thrive. The focus should always be on the victims and the lives that were stolen. It is their stories and their names that deserve to be remembered. Thank you for listening. Stay vigilant and stay safe.